You ain't even know it. I'm the I ain't care. Some of y'all troublemakers, but I ain't mad though. If you've heard sentences like these, you've witnessed a language inventing a brand new way to say no right now in real time. And linguists have a name for what's happening. Let's get into it. If you're new to the channel, my name's Dr. Taylor Jones, and on the channel I discuss everything relating to language, linguistics, language learning, and culture. If you're interested in those topics, be sure to hit subscribe and to ring the bell for notifications. I'm Dr. Taylor Jones, and this is Language Jones. Quick word nerd moment. Budget comes from Old French bougette, meaning little leather pouch. Literally, the bag you kept your coins in. 800 years later, we've upgraded the pouch a little bit, which brings me to today's sponsor. It's called Monarch, a personal finance app I just recently set up. Every account I have, checking, credit cards, saving, investments, because I'm fancy, syncs into one clean dashboard. It connects with over 13,000 institutions, so getting everything linked was fast. One view instead of 4 banking apps. It's couples ready, and it's been an absolute game changer for my family. The features I'm most into are the net worth trend over time and the goals page. Save up goals tied to your actual accounts, pay down goals for debt with real projected timelines. Fixed versus flexible spending, so the budget isn't rigid, and AI insights that explain changes in plain English. You can ask it questions about your money and just get an actual answer. It's private and ad-free. You're the customer, not the product. It's not a bank. It doesn't move your money. It just gives you a clear view of it. It works on web and on mobile. Link is on screen and in the description. Promo code is Jones50, or just scan the QR. All right, back to the video. Before we go anywhere, we need to clear something up. I'm tired of having to say this, but it's basically my whole job. The variety of English we're talking about is African American English, AAE, sometimes called AAVE. The V is for vernacular. I'm co-authoring a descriptive grammar of this variety with Hiram Smith and DeAndre Esprit Conaway, and in that work, we call it Black English. But whatever you call it, here's the key fact. It is not broken, it is not lazy, it is not incorrect English. That's a myth, and it's a myth with a lot of social baggage attached to it. It's not borne out by the empirical scientific study of language. Every naturally spoken language and dialect has its own consistent grammar, its own internal rules that speakers follow without even thinking about it. Black English has been studied by linguists for decades, and it is every bit as systematic and rule-governed as so-called standard English. The differences aren't errors, they're just different rules, and you can make an error following those rules. So here's a quick example everybody gets wrong. So-called double negatives, like I don't owe nobody nothing. Your high school English teacher might have told you that that's incorrect because 2 negatives make a positive. Of course, that one was 3, so I guess we're back in negatives? Anyway, here's the thing. That 2 negatives make a positive thing is a rule about multiplying numbers. There's no law of the universe that says that language has to work like arithmetic. Plenty of the world's languages, French, Spanish, Italian, Russian, treat negation as something the whole sentence agrees on, where if one thing is negative, anything else that can be is. Linguists call that negative concord, or negative agreement. Black English does it too, just like French, the language that bills itself as the language of thought, philosophy, la mission civilisatrice, and inventive swearing. Double negation is not bad logic, it's just a different grammar. Remember that, because negation is exactly what today's paper is about. So a few years back, who am I kidding, like a decade ago at this point, I noticed something. Across social media and in speech, Black English speakers were using a word that gets spelled eem or een and pronounced roughly like a long nasal, een. So I gathered data from everywhere, sociolinguistic interviews, television, movies, music, and a lot of Twitter. Back when you could use Twitter. The song You Don't Even Know, as in You Don't Even Know It, is packed with this. You don't even know it. Childish Gambino uses it too. Breakfast, lunch, and dinners for beginners, you ain't even know. So where does een come from? Undoubtedly from the word even. Say even fast and casually, even, you can hear how it erodes down to just een. That's a normal kind of reduction in AAE, the same way 7 can become something like 7. But here's the twist, and this is at the heart of the paper. Een is not just a fast speech phonological reduction, a lazy pronunciation of even anymore. It started doing a job that plain even doesn't do. It's taken on more function, marking negation. And to see why that's such a big deal, we need a few more concepts. All right, so concept 1, polarity items. Some words are picky about what kind of sentence they appear in. Take the English word any. You can say, I didn't see anybody there, but you can't say, I saw anybody there. Any needs a negative or a negative-ish environment to appear. Words like that are called negative polarity items, or NPIs. Other examples are ever, yet, anymore, or the phrase so much as lift a finger. He didn't lift a finger is fine. He so much as lifted a finger, meaning he helped, sounds busted. There are also positive polarity items, words that prefer the opposite, a plain positive sentence. Some and already lean this way. I already ate feels natural, while I didn't already eat feels off. The point is, these words act like little detectors. They only switch on in the right kind of environment. And remember this, eam behaves like a negative polarity item. It only shows up in a specific kind of neighborhood, which brings us to the most important foundational idea in the whole paper. Concept 2, non-veridicality. It's a big word, but it's a simple idea. A sentence is veridical if it commits you to something actually being true. Jamal was at the party. Said plainly, that asserts it really happened. A context is non-veridical if it doesn't commit you to the truth of the thing. You're not asserting it happened. Negation is the obvious case. Jamal wasn't at the party. Doesn't commit you to him being at the party. But negation isn't the only one. You got questions, was Jamal at the party? Conditionals, if Jamal was at the party. Futures, Jamal will be at the party. And before clauses, he stopped before I noticed. He stopped before I noticed doesn't assert that I noticed. Now here's a crucial piece. Ing is only allowed in non-veridical environments. That's the rule. So you get, I don't even know. Fine. Negation. You get, he stopped before I even noticed. Fine. Before clause. All non-veridical. But the moment you try to drop ing into a plain, positive, veridical sentence, it breaks. You can't say, ing Jamal was at the party. Ugh. No. 2, 4, and 6 are all ing numbers. No. Native speakers don't say those. When I did find the occasional ing in a positive sentence, it was almost always from non-native users who had seen an ing equals even post online. So ing was acting exactly like a negative polarity item, switching on only in those non-veridical, negative-flavored neighborhoods. But this is what's so interesting about it. In a lot of cases, ing isn't just hanging around the negation, it's starting to be the negation. To understand that shift, we need 2 last ideas. Grammaticalization is the process where an ordinary word, one with its own full meaning, slowly gets worn down and repurposed into a piece of pure grammar. It happens constantly. English gonna is the example that I like to use. It came from going to, a phrase about physically traveling somewhere, and it became a plain marker of the future. Going to the store versus gonna eat, that second one isn't about going anywhere. A meaning word became a function word. There was some phonological reduction too, just like with ing and even. And notice, you can say, I'm going to the store, and you can say, I'm going to eat, and you can say, I'm gonna eat, but you can't say, I'm gonna the store. The argument is that ing is doing this, drifting from the meaning word even into a grammatical marker of negation. And it's feeding into another kind of drift, and the pattern that drift is following has a name, Jespersen cycle, named after the Danish linguist Otto Jespersen, who described it in 1917. It's weird that the guy famous for studying negation is literally named Jespersen, but linguistics has always had an ironic sense of humor. He noticed that languages tend to recycle how they say no in a repeating, predictable pattern in stages. Stage 1, you've got one little negative word. Over time, it gets weak, short, unstressed, easy to miss. Stage 2, because it feels too weak, speakers reinforce it with an extra word for emphasis. I didn't walk, a step. I didn't drink, a drop. That reinforcing word gets so common that kids learning the language treat it as required. Now 2 words are doing the negative job at once. Stage 4, the original negative word starts feeling optional and eventually drops out entirely. The new word, the one that started as mere emphasis, is now the only way to say no. And then the cycle can start over. The textbook example is French. Classic French negates with 2 pieces, ne and pas. That pas originally meant a step, a pure emphasis, not a step. Over time it became required, and in casual modern French, people often drop the original ne and just use pas. English did this 2 centuries ago. I ne say not, I say not, I do not say. Quick aside, if you just felt the click of those 4 ideas snapping together, that feeling is linguistics. It's the whole reason I built my intro course, which starts from 0 and gets you here. Links in the description if you want it. Waitlist is open. Okay, back to EAM because this is where it gets really good. Here's where it all comes together. I found AAE speakers at what look like different stages of the cycle all at once, and the example sentences line up beautifully. And all at once is kind of what we should expect from a functional typological perspective. Some speakers reinforce the negation with both the negative and "ing," and even, I ain't even feeling it. I don't like it. That's Belt-and-suspenders negation, the classic look of an in-progress cycle. It's not a technical name for it, that's just doing too much. Other speakers negate with "ing" alone. No, don't, no, ain't, nothing else. Y'all some troublemakers, but I ain't mad though. I'm the shit, I ain't care. Or one of my absolute favorite example sentences to make it into an academic paper. Irony is, in most states, strippers can't even get naked. They literally dancing in bathing suits, racking the fuck up. That is, they can't get naked and they're making a lot of money despite being in bathing suits, not fully stripping. The point is that the context makes it very clear it's not they can even get naked, because then the following explanation, they're making money despite being in bathing suits, makes literally no sense. Don't even make sense. So read those again. The only thing making them negative is the "ing." That's the key observation of the whole paper. For these speakers, "ing" has changed from appearing around negation to being the negation. At least sometimes, one strategy of negation. And some speakers do something wild. They use "ing" as the sole negation, then reinforce it with "even" all over again. I'm gonna act like I ain't even read that. I'm going to act like I didn't even read that. You ain't even know it. You don't even know it. If that last pattern feels familiar, a new negative marker that itself starts getting reinforced, that's the cycle potentially kicking off another lap. Now, I have my theories about why this could happen, especially in writing, which boil down to phonological similarity between a strongly reduced ain't and even, ain't and eam, but this at least suggests that for some people, some of those ain'ts might have been reanalyzed as eames. In the paper, I argue that this is a genuinely unusual find for a few reasons. First, the timing. Normally, linguists study Jespersen's cycle by digging through centuries-old documents, reconstructing a change that finished long ago. With eam, we may be catching the cycle live. Twitter alone produces tens of thousands of eam tokens in a month. I point out in the paper that this might be the first time in history we can watch this kind of change in real time. Second, it's messier than the textbook version, but in a good way. Classic Jespersen cycle moves one word before the verb and one after. Here the pieces are both in front of the verb. And rather than a tidy one stage at a time march, all the stages are coexisting at the same time in different speakers and different regions and different sentences competing. That competition is exactly what modern data-driven models of language change predict. And it fits nicely with what we'd expect from the approaches I've been into lately. Croft, Bybee, and all of those folks. The original working paper was written while I was at Penn, still in the cult of Chomsky, trying to prove my bona fide, and the paterfamilias.
I am the damn paterfamilias.
But you ain't bona fide.
So I talk about reanalysis up the tree, but that's just a notational variant anyway. See my video on how everything I was taught was wrong. I'll link that one at the end. So why should you care about one nasal vowel? The answer is because it's a window into something profound. Language change isn't something that only happened in the past in dusty manuscripts. It's happening right now in the mouths of living people, often in communities whose speech gets unfairly dismissed as incorrect. Eam might catch on and become a permanent standard part of Black English grammar, or it might fizzle out. Plenty of changes do. We don't know yet. But the fact that we can watch a language potentially reinvent a word for no or not in real time is the kind of thing that makes linguistics genuinely thrilling. And it's one more piece of evidence that Black English isn't a degraded version of anything. It's a full, living, evolving language system doing what languages do, innovating right under our noses the same way that French did. One step, one pas at a time. Everything we just did, the validity, the rules, the live change, is exactly what we're putting into a full descriptive grammar of Black English. Not a style guide telling people how to talk, a real grammar documenting how the language actually works. It's in progress, and there's a waitlist link below if you want first access. I'll point you to the original paper below because there's examples in there that I didn't even talk about here. Thanks for watching. Happy learning.